Today we are joined by the highest rated player of all time, 17-time world champion, and by many considered the greatest of all time, Magnus Carlsen. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's really nice to have you here. And Magnus, you're obviously a very busy guy, traveling a lot, playing many tournaments. But you also actually have a few other interests besides chess and fantasy games being one of them. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it kind of started around 2013, I think. 2014 maybe. That some of my friends started watching this TV series called The League, about a bunch of people playing in a fantasy football league, American football that is. And I didn't find the American football so interesting, but I found the idea of having a fantasy league, having some banter with friends to be fun. So I started playing Fantasy Premier League. Then I ventured into fantasy basketball a bit. And when Norwich has contacted me last year, asking if I had any opinions on a fantasy game they wanted to build for last year's tournament, then I found that quite exciting.
And we'll talk more about that. But all the people I meet who's into Fantasy Premier League, they're so amazed that you were actually world number one on the live ranking list in that game. And you probably mentioned this many times, but how do you explain that great achievement? And did you do something special that season in order to do that?
I think that's some skill and an extraordinary amount of luck. I think fantasy games, especially ones with so many players, like you can give yourself a fairly significant edge by preparing well for each round, and especially if you build your own statistical models, but you cannot. There is so much randomness in the game. Like even if you're the best player in the world, like you cannot necessarily expect to ever be number one. So I thought that was a lot of fun when it happened.
Were you really excited? Like during a tense chess match or tournament, did you get that exciting feeling?
Yeah. So I think the first time it happened, I was at home, and then the second time, it was while I was playing a chess tournament in London. To be honest, like that at that time, I'd had food poisoning, and I was very low on energy after playing in India. Like the tournament went amazing in India, but physically I was kind of spent for that tournament in London, and I was certainly a lot more excited about fantasy football right there than
the chess.
Yeah,
that's great. And now, actually, there's something called Chess Fantasy, which you've been a part of, and tell us a little bit about your role and the concept of fantasy chess.
Yeah, so as I said, I was contacted by Norwich as they asked my input on that, and what I wanted, which was not a new idea. It had been proposed before, like Jon de Hammer, for instance, had thought of the same thing. But basically, like in most fantasy games, like you have sports teams and you pick players from them. So what we wanted to do was that we wanted to make the players the teams and then the pieces the players. Because every fantasy chess game so far had not really been a proper fantasy game. It's been more like guess the result of individual games, which is also fun, but it's something completely different. So that's why we wanted to build this. And I think we've done quite well so far. In terms of that, there is an edge to be had by skill, but there's enough randomness that anybody could beat anybody in any given on any given day. Yeah, we're still working on the game, but so far it's been fun to be part of, for sure.
And the ambitions here, what are those?
Personally, my ambition is to bring more fun to chess fans and fans of fantasy games, but we definitely want to reach a lot of people, find new chess fans, also like creating good new content for TV and for chess broadcasts as well. So there's a lot of things we can do, for sure.
And I mean, fantasy games are often about strategy. Some luck, obviously, but strategy is an important part of it. And could you give us some insight in your strategy when playing this fantasy format?
Sure. I try to think of which players will play long, complicated games. Try and pick their pieces. If a person is an attacking player, I might want to pick some of their kingside pieces. If that person is not like does not like often go for the king, maybe pick an a pawn for the for the end game. So there are some thoughts of that going into it. Then like you pick a first mover. So if it's a first mover, you want usually something that applies for both white and black, because you don't necessarily want to change that every round. And otherwise, I think the white light squared bishop for some reason does like a little bit better than
that's interesting
than the dark squared bishop. So you might want to think about that. But there are also like individual preferences within each player. So yeah, there are a lot of things to think about. Also, like we've run simulations based on previous Norway chess tournaments and other top tournaments to see if there are any trends. And obviously, there's limited data. There are limited data samples, so the data we get might not be the most reliable. But there are still interesting things to see from that. And yeah.
So you can also look at the opening to predict some of which pieces are stronger, which with the respective players, or
yeah, like you could see also, like for instance, if somebody plays the Berlin as black, you might not want to pick their queen, because their queen will might be captured on its initial square, and then like doesn't give you a lot of points. So there are definitely things like that. Yeah,
there's a lot of things a lot of factors.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like this is the thing about fantasy game, like from from day to day, these things will not give you a huge edge. But I think over time, it's definitely possible to play this game well. And also importantly, it gives people an extra incentive to watch games. Let's say, for instance, you have picked somebody's A pawn, and randomly they just happen to queen that pawn, and then the queen is immediately captured, eradicating the last material on the board. But since you got that extra move in, you win that particular round. So that there's always like a little bit more to hope for. So I've said, like, jokingly in the past that I want people to stop caring about the chess and to only care about their fantasy pieces. Because I gotta admit, sometimes when I'm watching football games or basketball games, like, I sort of lose track of what's happening in the actual football game or basketball game because I'm only following my players. So the sort of your priorities get a bit skewed in a funny way.
So you might follow a player's piece rather than following the position or the result of the game, or stuff like that.
Exactly. And I know that people who have favorite football teams have huge moral problems with that when their players score against their team and so on. And obviously that's why I don't have any favorite English Premier League teams, so that I can be neutral when it comes to fantasy.
And you can actually pick yourself or make one of your pieces a captain when you're playing.
Yeah, so obviously over time when fantasy chess becomes really big, you'd probably have to implement some kind of way of preventing the players from manipulating
because if you have
games. But I think, like, for the moment the incentive is not there.
Big enough.
And for the moment, I think I would encourage top players to play because it's fun.
Yeah.
And currently there's a beta version. But as the game of chess is so rich, I also see many possibilities for fantasy. You could do, for example, different openings, different tournaments, different seasons, different players. So it seems like there are many rich opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely have different formats for different events, and we obviously want to have people create their own mini leagues to play with their friends and family and so on. Yeah.
What do you think, Odin? You could also do, for example, which player has spent the most time after the opening, let's say after 20 moves. Number of pieces that left the board after 20 moves, things like that.
There's so many things you could do. And there's, it has to be one of the games with the most statistics available when you look at everything, all the factors. So only fantasy, no pun intended, can restrict the ideas.
So the thing about that is also, for the moment, we don't want to make the game too complicated, because I think that's part of the appeal of fantasy games, that anybody can beat anybody, and that they're fairly easy to understand.
Yeah, exactly. And the candidates are coming up, starting in only a few days. And Odin, we've actually been lucky. We're one of the selected few who will try and play
the
beta version.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the candidates tournament, which will be starting on Wednesday, April 3rd in Toronto. And how does it look like? And let's just go through the list of players. So Magnus... who's playing there this time around?
You're putting me on the spot.
Today's quiz.
Yeah. So I guess it's Corona, Nakamura, Nepomniachtchi, Then there's the 3 Indians, Prague, Vidit, and Gukesh. So that's 6. And then there's Alireza and Abbasov as well. So that should be all of them. No, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Very strong lineup, I have to say.
Yeah, quite strong.
Because I remember this was in 2019. We had one TV episode where we talked about the candidates that unfolded back then. And then I think you said Ding and Caruana was the favorite against the rest of the field that time.
In 2020, that was.
Yeah, in 2020, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously that was sort of the ascent of Nepomniachtchi. Like he had amazing results before that, but nothing that quite suggested that he would be a favorite, at least to win 2 candidates in a row. So I do think like the quote unquote old guys are favorites this time.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically Nakamura, Caruana, and Nepomniachtchi. I think Nakamura and Caruana are the best, most consistent players there. But it's hard to say. But I would say like if anybody else wins, it would be a bit of a surprise. I think Alireza, like it would be surprising. But not shocking. If any of the other 4 win, that would be a shock, basically. And yeah, it is a strong lineup. It's missing some. It's missing some people for sure. I mean, Abdusattorov with this recent result, you could argue. Also, people like So and Giri, even with their fairly obvious psychological shortcomings, there's still people who generally belong in this field.
And Odin will be following the candidates closely, obviously, because we're playing the fantasy. But what are you looking forward to the most with that tournament?
A lot. I'm actually, as Magnus says, I'm thinking that I'm holding Nakamura as a favorite, and I don't know why. It just might be his last chance.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure.
And the motivation part of it.
I mean, I think there's many chess fans around the world that's rooting for Nakamura and to see him in a world championship match, and he has a strong following. Obviously, one of the biggest stars out there and the biggest chess streamer in the world. So that would be amazing for him and his fans. But we have a question from Twitter from Juror, and he's asking you, Magnus, if you will be following the candidates closely, and do you have any hopes of a player to win?
Yeah, I always follow the candidates. I am a chess fan, after all. And the candidates is unusual in the sense that there are normally a lot of decisive games. Because, like, usually only first place really counts. So, compared to other super tournaments with similar strength of field, like you're going to see more fighting chess. I mean, I don't know who's going to win. I don't particularly hope for anybody. I feel like anybody who's going to be classical world champion, who's not me, is always going to be a bit weird. But
do you think there are, let's say, a player that will suit Ding's strengths as a chess player, and maybe another player that might be more of a tricky opponent for Ding?
Yeah, I think Nakamura has always been a very difficult opponent for Ding specifically. Ding has always done quite well against Corona.
That's interesting.
But again, these things may change. I also think if Ding plays the way he plays, he's played recently, he obviously will have no chance. And if he plays the way he played against Nepomniachtchi, I also don't think he'll beat either of these two guys. So that's obviously a huge factor there as well. But yeah, I think for like the two top favorites specifically, I do think like on average, like Corona is a better classical player than Nakamura. But so far, like Ding has done a lot better against him.
Bare, du sa jo at det vil bli litt rart med en annen verdensmester enn meg. Kan du bare stille spørsmål om man kan utbrodere det?
Yeah, so Magnus, you mentioned that it's kind of strange to have a different world champion in classical chess. Can you elaborate how you feel about that?
No, I mean the thing is, I used to be world champion for in classical chess for a long time, and I haven't retired, so
yeah.
I chose to step away, and that's fine. But it's always going to be like slightly weird. But I'm also thinking like good for the others.
And you have talked about in the past that you really hated all the preparation, all the stress, all the media attention. Is it good to know that you'll face a few months now where you don't have to think about all these things?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with the way things are. Like I'm certainly not eager to get back to the World Championship. So there's no problem there.
So is there a player that would feel less weird? Player out there if he becomes a world champion, he or she?
No, I think for sure if Corona became world champion, that would be both quite deserved and would probably feel the most normal of all of them.
Interesting.
Very good. And last topic related to fantasy. What do you see as the differences between chess and let's say soccer and other sports from a fantasy perspective?
I don't think it's that different in a sense. Like we're trying to make it fairly similar. Yeah.
Do you think people that do well in other fantasy games have a good starting point when it comes to chess fantasy?
I think people who have sort of an analytical approach to other fantasy games will have an advantage in chess as well. And the thing is, you don't need to be good at chess to be good at fantasy.
And the good thing about this is that we might actually bring new chess fans, into the chess community, the chess world. Start following chess more closely.
Certainly hoping that, yeah. I know there are a lot of people who like chess but don't really follow chess, but like fantasy games. So we're hoping that they're gonna like it.
Great.
And I already feel like the kind of added bonus, because when I now play the Title Tuesday, I can also play Profit. So it's just more action and more fun. So I'm really looking forward to playing this beta version while I'm also following the candidates. So
yeah, and I mean they're long games, and it's nice to just have something extra
to root for, and
And you will probably follow the games more closely and in a different way that you've done in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll be more focused, probably.
And obviously, Profit is a slightly different game because that's not a fancy game in the same way. That's more of a trying to guess the results. But I tried it a couple of weeks ago as well. I tried to stream, which didn't go so well because I was feeling horrible. But at least, and I also played terribly. But at least I did well in
You also
in the profit.
shared first.
I
or
shared first.
Yeah. What was the score?
I think it was slightly higher. It was like 87 or something.
Yeah,
insane.
higher than me.
I made a
84
couple,
maybe.
Yeah, I made a couple of stupid guesses that I regret, but it was fun as well.
How many draws did you guess correctly?
I definitely guessed one draw incorrectly when Nakamura was playing. I think Jose Martinez as black. I thought that he was going to force a draw, and I guess Nakamura did not allow that. I think I guessed a draw between. I think I guessed a draw in the last round because Nakamura, I think, was leading by half a point, and I thought they were just going to make a draw to ensure first and second, and they did.
I think that's maybe the hardest part about profit, like when you're deeper in the tournament and
last few rounds,
so strong players and a bit more of draws. So
I mean, honestly, like in the first few rounds. You will get maximum score unless you get quite unlucky. But certainly from round 4 or 5 out, that's when it gets much more difficult. And then you have to think a little bit more about the matchups to make your picks. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And Magnus, you've been quite busy last few months, and a lot has happened since the last time you joined us here on Sjakksnakk. Let's just go back to the Christmas period where you were in Uzbekistan. You played both the World Rapid and Blitz. And first of all, congratulations. You won gold in both events. That's a great performance. And before going there, which players did you kind of look at as your biggest competitors for those titles?
I don't think I thought too much about who was going to be my biggest competitors, but I did think before the event, since Nakamura was not there. And also Alireza infamously pulled out in order to farm rating in France, which I thought was completely fair. So that's all right. I thought I was a very significant favorite in the Blitz, probably more than 50% chance to win. And in the Rapid, I thought I always have a decent chance, but I cannot really count on winning because it's a shorter event and I have less of an edge in Rapid than I do in Blitz. I was wondering how Abdusatorov would fare, since it's usually quite difficult to play on home soil, and as you could see, he didn't handle it, I think, so well. Apart from that, it's kind of hard to predict who's going to do well from time to time. There are people like Dubov who are kind of almost always there. But the thing about those events as well is that the price structure is one that doesn't really incentivize you to go very hard for gold.
Thank you.
A lot of people sort of end up trying to secure a medal or even a top 5 finish rather than to go for gold. And that means that people like Dubov, for instance, he has in the past, first of all, I think he thinks that it suits him to make draws against players he considers very difficult, and then rather sometimes try and counterattack as black. But it's also because a lot of these people, I mean, he's also won a title there before, so like getting another one is not necessarily a big deal to him, and it seems for some other players as well. If they can sort of secure their biggest payday of the year, they'd rather do that than go for gold. So in that sense, I have a huge competitive advantage, since for me, like really first place, it's all that matters.
Oh, thank you for saying this. I've been saying this for years and covering the event for NRK every year, and I'm so annoyed with all the draws. But it's actually the payout structure is way too flat, and as you could see, like in the last round, Fedosiev was like half a point behind you in the rapid section, and he could theoretically, if you lose, he could win. And but he has no like financial incentive to play on, because he could lose. Like there was maybe 7 players or so that could surpass him if he end up losing the game. So it's a like mathematically decision just to take a draw if he can.
And in addition to that, he had just won 2 absolutely insane games as black against Nihal and then Vidit. So it was quite understandable. Like he didn't have the incentives to try and win. Like he could maybe be caught by Yu Yang-yi, I think, for second place if he drew. But
they will share the prize money as well.
Yeah, they would share the prize money. He would get silver or bronze for sure. So yeah, no, it's a bit of a problem that, I mean, it's not unique to chess, of course, that people try and secure a medal rather than going for first. But I think like abolishing the draw offers there wouldn't be a bad idea. And to be fair, like personally, I'm cynical. I don't set out to make draws, but like if people offer me a draw and it suits me, I will take it.
Yeah.
If it's good for my tournament. But it shouldn't be that way, that it's allowed. I think
because we have a listener who wrote to us on Twitter, Jason King. He asks, what's your opinion on these quick draws? Should FIDE just allow draw by agreement on move 1? Why go through the theatrics? Do the players have a moral obligation to fight in a game of chess?
I think you cannot really prevent players from making a draw if they want to. That's just the way the chess is. At least if you're going to play normal chess. If you play freestyle chess or chess 960 on the other hand, then it's a different ballgame. Then you cannot force a draw. But the way chess is, it's hard to prevent. And as for the theatrics, I think people should make the moves, like find a repetition, change some pieces, and most of all, like play something that resembles actual chess, not the way Nepomniachtchi and Dubov played. Yeah.
But Udin, what do you think could be a solution for especially these 2 events, the World Championship?
Yeah, so as Magnus said, like maybe abolish draws, do something about the payout structure. But I mean, there's a bright side to this. I remember Magnus had an interview and addressed this problem with the short draws and everything, and then Emil Sutovsky was quite quick to tweet that something has to be done. So hopefully something will be done. I don't know what.
Do you think there will be some changes for this year's event?
At least there should be.
Yeah, I don't know. We shouldn't also be too negative. I love the event. It works great on TV in Norway. And also, I actually like the time slot. I know it's not perfect for all the players, but it is a time when there's not that much going on. So chess will get a lot of attention. and it's already a bit of a tradition. So I think they should keep it that way for sure. The format, also the Swiss format, I think it's really really exciting.
Yeah. And just one last thought, because on one hand, it's nice that players, let's say rated around 2,700, can actually win a nice amount of money. But as you said, Odin, maybe they should look at the price structure, look to, for example, poker, where it's a bit steeper, right? So you always have an incentive to kind of go for the win, even though it's the last round or the second last round. Because then we might see more fighting chess towards the end. But will definitely be exciting to see if there's any new rules before the events in 2024.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agrees with Magnus on the tradition part, and for me as well, working with chess every Christmas holiday since 2014. And I hope it will continue this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Magnus, we just have a question for you on this topic before we move on. It's from Claire on Twitter. Which game was your favorite in the World Rapid 2023 that you played? And she says, I really enjoyed his games with Fedoseev and Erigaisi.
Yeah, I have to say the game against Fedoseev was my favorite. At that point, I drew the first game and then I won 4 games in a row, which was excellent. I actually won 5 games in a row, I think. And then I sort of hit a bit of a speed bump. I made a few draws in a row that weren't too great. So when I came into the third day, first game against Fedoseev, I was a little bit unsure. I started thinking about, I probably need to win 2 games today out of 4 to win the tournament. And against Fedoseev, a draw is a good result. But then I probably have to win both my white games. And I was like, this is a good situation, but it's not a comfortable situation. And so when he played the opening that they played the Nimzo Indian with knight of 3. I just had a notion that I'm just going to play something that I don't know, and I'm going to try and just have a complicated game. And the thing is, even though I was a little bit nervous, I was feeling quite good. And so I was thinking to myself, when I'm feeling good, I almost never lose. So what's the worst thing that could happen, right? And so we just got a really complicated fight. And I played a good game. Ended up winning kind of a model game, actually, in the end. So yeah, that was a great experience for sure. And to answer their question, definitely my favorite game from that event.
Great, and it was really impressive because you only had 1 loss across those 2 events and 30 plus games, and it seems like you're back on top. You're the player to beat. And David Howell was our guest, Odin, in December, just before Rapid and Blitz World Championships, and he said that there probably must be someone from the younger generation to kind of be able to beat Magnus at some point, because it seems like the players around your age, you play them dozens of times, and it seems like you also have a psychological advantage because they've lost many times against you, and it's difficult kind of to maybe reset for those type of players. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's true. That's also why it's important to play the kids at an early age so that you can get a psychological advantage against them as well. I don't know if any of the kids are going to be better than I am. I sort of doubt it that any of them are going to have peak that's better than my peak. But of course, at some point, I will start to decline more than I already have. And for me, it's like it's hard to say what level I am at the moment. Like I really sucked at the start at the freestyle chess tournament in Germany, and then like towards the end of it, I was very good.
Yeah.
I can. So it turned out that I didn't actually suck. I just needed like a little bit of confidence and a little bit of time to get into it and understand the game, that specific game better. I mean, for the moment, I don't think any of them are close to being at my level, but that doesn't mean that it's always easy.
And 1 year ago, when you were a guest here on Shaksnak, you said that Alireza Firouzja is probably still the biggest talent in his generation. Do you still stick by that, or has a player like Abdusattorov shown in the last year that he's a player to look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no doubt that Alireza is a bigger talent. Whether he's a more likely pick to have a better chess career than Abdusattorov, I'm not sure. But I am not like 100% convinced by Abdusattorov still. I'm talking like in terms of being a clear, like number one, whether he's going to be like a perennial top player. Well, obviously, but it's still like hard to say.
And speaking of players in your generation, let's say Wesley So, Nakamura, Giri, Aronian, for that sake, what is your mindset playing these players that you played so many times over the years?
I don't know. I mean, I just play. I mean, I know their games, like I know their preferences so well, so that there may be opening surprises, but there aren't that many surprises otherwise.
And do you get a feeling how they kind of look at you when they are facing you, and does their strategy differ? Do they have a different approach when playing you?
That's hard to say. I think somebody like Nakamura definitely plays with a bit more respect when he plays against me than others, because like he knows that there are certain things that I will punish that others don't. As for Aronian, he has like different gears, but when he's sort of on, he still shows me and others as little respect as he did in his prime, which is good to see.
And how long do you think you will be able to dominate? I use the word dominate in these events, the World Rapid and Blitz.
It's very hard to say. I mean, I've won 4 events in a row now, which is
amazing.
Yeah, no, but it's also something you cannot expect. But I would say at least for the next 5 years, I'll be a contender at worst. I mean, let's say 2 years from now, I mean, it's very hard to imagine that I will not be the biggest favorite even then.
And I assume these titles mean a lot to you, especially stepping away from the World Classical title.
Yeah, I'm really excited these days about playing freestyle chess. I feel that's sort of invigorated my will to play with longer time controls. And I mean, that's not a shock since it's something that I've wanted for a while now. But apart from that, like it's really the to some extent the Speed Chess Championship, but especially the World Rapid and Blitz, that I really, really want to win.
Great.
Yeah, no. Speaking of this freestyle chess, there's a coming tour, and you're obviously involved. To what extent are you involved in all of this?
No, I'm hugely involved in the sense that this is what I wanted for a long time. I talked to Jan-Henrik Bittner quite often about it as well. My dad does as well. Yeah, I mean, I do think that the other players are quite enthusiastic about this. That this is, I mean, some of it more than others. Like Aronian, for instance, that's also the reason why he was invited to the tournament in Germany. Is that he is extremely enthusiastic about this and has been for a while. But it feels like a lot of the top players they like this format. But yeah, and for now, I'm definitely trying to to push it as much as I can.
And you mentioned it yourself in the first inaugural event in Germany. You needed some time to get in the zone, but can you try and describe how it is to do that while you're playing freestyle chess compared to normal chess tournament?
Yeah, so the difference is you sort of feel like you're in the middle game from move one, especially if you're in a situation where the king is like relatively safe on its starting square, then you sort of feel that you can start like planning strategically from the first move, which is quite exciting. And it's like, yeah, it's so different. You sort of have to unlearn patterns that you know from normal chess on the fly. And I don't know, it's like it's also like easy to get too excited. Like I've like wanted to sacrifice pawns all the time. All these gambits, like e4, e5, d4, or d5, d5, d4, d5, e4, those sorts of things. Even like b5, b4, b5, then c4 or a4. Those kinds of things, and like it's often like hard to tell like whether they will work or not. Like against Abu Satora, for instance, I started the game with one g4, which was like it looked a bit weird in that situation, but I had a knight in the corner which could come out behind the pawn. It's like it made quite a bit of sense. It was not a bad move. But then later on, like without preparing it, like after he'd gone e5, like I played d4 a bit later with the idea to go like ed4, f4, but that was a bit too much. And I kind of knew that, but I was like, I couldn't really help myself because I just wanted to play energetically and sacrifice something.
That's great. And do you feel that you and other top players might have a different mindset playing freestyle chess compared to classical? That you're more aggressive, you're more in the mood to sacrifice pieces, etc.
Yeah, I think your preferences as a chess player, they shine through much more than they do in normal chess there, and that's really really fun to see. And it's also going to be interesting to see how much better people will eventually play.
Do you think we'll get some sort of theory at some point?
I think we will, or at least
in some
we will recognize
positions?
more and more patterns.
Yeah.
That's what I already see, that people recognize patterns a bit better. But theory, that's hard to say. Also, the positions are so different. like the good thing about normal chess, like the normal chess starting position is awesome. That's the reason why it was chosen, is that the pieces are generally quite well placed. And it also means that in response to e4, like e5, symmetry is almost always good. Like in almost every freestyle position as well, symmetry is playable. But then also c5 is perfectly fine. Even moves like c6 and e6 are completely okay. While in freestyle chess, like in certain positions, like you might have to play symmetry. And so I'm thinking like those positions can probably be analyzed quite well. Those positions where you sort of have to play symmetry. And those positions will obviously be less exciting as well. While you can see in others, like you can see that there are maybe 5 playable first moves for white, and then usually black has a few decent responses there as well. Even I've seen some times where just looking at the position, I've had a pretty strong opinion of whether e4 or d4 is more logical. And then, like, the engine says, they're both pretty good.
And it seemed like this first event in Germany was a great success. And as you said, Odin, there will be a tour across 5 continents starting later in 2024.
Yeah, starting with India in November. Yeah.
And you will participate in all the events on the tour, or?
I plan to play as much as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And some exciting places as well.
Yeah,
It's
very.
like,
India, New York, Colombia, Australia.
Yeah, I can't wait to play, and I think it's going to be an awesome new opportunity for players and fans.
And I can just we talked about this before, but as a viewer and as a freestyle chess player on lower levels, I always try to see the position in like normal chess kind of way to find the pattern that my brain is used to, and sometimes I see strong players are moving the pieces towards a kind of normal position. But we talked about this before, and I think you said that this is not the way to play usually. That you should just play
embrace the chaos.
Embrace the chaos more, sort of.
Yeah. Sorry. I think that is one big reason why having a longer time control is so important. That it actually gives you time to think about these things. When you're playing Rapid or Blitz, it's so much easier to, okay, we're just going to basically maneuver until the position resembles normal chess, and we play from there. So I think to achieve anything even remotely resembling the quality of play we have in normal chess, then we have to, as I said, like unlearn some of these patterns and not try and think that way. Obviously, like some of the things are going to be the same, but I think it's just too different, and I feel like it's also more exciting if you don't treat it as a normal chess game in that sense, trying to just get it into something you feel familiar with.
I agree.
And Magnus, I mean, you've won every event now for the last few months that you played, and you feel like you were energized going into the tournament in Germany. You also won the first event on the Champion Chess Tour as well.
I don't know. I feel like I haven't played so much chess, and when I've played online, it's been like a bit of a mixed bag. So I'm a bit unsure about my chess form at the moment.
But you were in Spain for a few weeks trying to recharge before a hectic 2024, and Odin and I visited for a few days. And is that important when you're such a busy guy?
Honestly, I just wanted to escape the winter. But yeah, for sure. But like my chess form, like I am always doubting my chess form when I feel like I haven't played for a bit. But yeah, it's certainly important to have some time to not think about chess at all, or not very much. I always think about it some.
Yeah. So the next tournament for you now will be the Grenke, or Skal vi ta en pause der?
Ja,
ja,
en liten pause.
jeg må ta litt vann, jeg òg.
Men ja, kommer vi innom det Kramnik-greiene til slutt, eller?
Ja, det kan vi òg.
Ja, det er når jeg skal rose Odins Title Tuesday performance.
Ja, for det er jo interessant.
Og så må vi jo selvfølgelig snakke om Norway Chess.
Ja.
Vi må gi shout-out til Kjell og Benedikt.
Vi bikker en time snart.
Mista vann.
Det er bare begrenset av hvor lenge.
Ja.
Ja, det er greit å holde oss til
Så er det jo litt lyttespørsmål, så vi får bare speed up nå,
ja.
Vi dropper Grenke da, for det er ikke så...
Nei. Ja, det var bommert. Vi skal ikke snakke om det. Vi går rett på...
Men skal vi avslutte med Norway Chess og matchen vår da, kanskje?
Ja, vi kan ta det til slutt, og så...
Ja. Men da kan jeg introdusere neste. That's understandable, Magnus, and you always play a lot of online games, both, serious tournaments on the Champions Chess Tour, Speed Championship, etc., but also for fun. And you as well, Odin, you've been playing a lot, and you made a good result in your first ever Title Tuesday. And I believe you actually had a game with a 98% accuracy. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. And also, that was a short game, so it wasn't that big of an accomplishment. But I had one with the 93, I think, as well. A bit longer, so I was quite happy with that. But at the same time, afraid that I would be contacted by Mr. Vladimir Kramnik himself.
Because he's been very active lately on Twitter. Seems very preoccupied with the accuracy of different players and statistics, etc. And now he seemed to have a go at Hikaru Nakamura, especially. And the other day, chess.com posted a picture of you and Nakamura, Magnus, from the plane trip you had together some time back. And they just wrote GM and GM. But then Kramnik wrote GM with lowercase letters on Nakamura and uppercase letters next to your picture. So he definitely seems to have a grudge against Nakamura and maybe others as well.
Yeah, and the other way around as well. I mean, I also watched the Hikaru stream sometimes, and then he says some insulting things to Kramnik as well. So there's some drama going on there.
Yeah, and what do you make of all this? Have you been following Kramnik on Twitter lately?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Nakamura is cheating. First of all, I mean, I've seen some Kramnik stuff pop up here and there, and I don't think he has a full grasp on statistics. I also don't think. Yeah, so I think like his methods are probably not great. But then again, like he's probably not wrong about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kramnik focuses a lot on the accuracy, and that's compared to the computer's first choice. So Odin, if you have a 98% accuracy, that's really impressive, even though it's a short game.
Boom.
But what do you think could be the problem, Magnus, when using that type of statistics, looking for cheaters, for example?
No, I mean, first of all, what I was thinking about is when Kramnik is talking about Nakamura's streaks against very weak players. Like, I think those are like the least suspicious things online, because these things happen like a lot more frequently than you'd think about accuracy in general. I don't. I don't know enough to talk too much about it.
There is a cheating problem, especially online. That's for sure.
But no one can accuse you, Odin, of cheating.
No,
I
not yet.
I sat next to you and saw your games, and I think you squandered away at least 2 winning positions where you were 2 pieces up in one of them.
That's one of my fears playing the match against you, which we're going to talk about more.
Yeah.
It's like my technique is non-existing. I have 2 pieces up. And then I just
with minimal counterplay,
and I'm always trying to checkmate. I mean, come on.
And but sometimes I feel you have good endgame technique, but you're not good enough in converting. Let's say
totally winning positions,
material advantage, etc. So you might need to train on that a little
specifically.
And Odin, we talked about your lousy technique, which you must improve because in 2.5 months' time, we'll try and break a new Guinness World Record during Norway Chess. Our goal is 60 hours of a Blitz chess marathon, the longest chess marathon. And we've been preparing now for several months already. How do you feel now going forward?
Okay, I feel okay. I'm actually one of the main goals for my part was like finding the love for chess again, and I haven't enjoyed playing Blitz online for ages, but now I actually enjoy it. Now I just want to play more, and I have like a set goal to beat you. So now I just want to play. And that's obviously great.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear, and I'm sure you've experienced, your ups and downs, Magnus, in terms of motivation and your love for the game. Today, how do you feel about that?
It always goes a bit up and down, but I still have my moments.
But you still love chess, right?
I absolutely love to play. So I still play casual online games quite a bit, which I think is usually a good indicator that you love to play. It's a lot of fun to play, and the motivation again it comes and goes a bit for big tournaments, but I have periods where I absolutely love the game, and I think like having some lulls like I've had now where like I haven't really played tournaments, I haven't thought too much about playing tournaments or openings I'm going to play and so on. It's quite healthy to have them as well.
Mm-hmm. And we will play during Norway Chess, Odin, with the world's best players surrounding us.
And we will stay at the Players Hotel, and we're obviously very thankful to Kjell and Benedicte from Norway Chess, and we will use their venue, have our own setup over there, and take part in the life of a chess star like
for
Magnus.
A couple of days.
A couple of days.
And hopefully you will check in with us, Magnus, while we're playing, root us on. But also looking forward for the tournament. It's different this year. 6 players. Used to be 10. What are your ambitions going into one of the most prestigious tournaments of the year?
Yeah, I don't play much classical chess at all, and I don't focus too much about it on it. So this will be the first time that I play classical chess since November, I think, which is quite a big break there. I don't know. I guess I will have more ambitions coming into it. It's certainly a very strong field, and I've always quite liked the 6-player double round robin, since it's like, it's very fair and you got a lot of games, but.
And they still have the draw regulations, right? With Armageddon games,
which I think Like I'm honestly not sure that I even play. I mean, I'm not sure I'm like ever actually going to play like just a normal round robin classical chess tournament again, like the types they have in St. Louis and Bucharest for the Grand Chess Tour. So like having that Armageddon, also having the time control, where the games are like a little bit shorter, that's important to me.
Interesting. Pepsi.
And but back to our match, Odin. It's all about time for us, right? The goal is 60 hours.
It really is, and we could mention a lot of people, but our official timekeeper is Von Doren Timepieces, and from today of, he's also a proud sponsor of this podcast.
Yeah, that's great, and helps us continue making cool episodes with guests like Magnus. And we really appreciate all the support. And time is such an essential part of our record. So that was really cool to get him on board.
You're actually wearing one of his pieces now, and it's...
Yes, Il Tempo Gigante watch from Von Doren, which is a really cool, elegant, and stylish clock. So
yeah, I
love
all the watches. And they're ranging in prices from affordable to very expensive, but they're all high quality products. So
go check them out.
Yeah, we would really recommend that.
And we have a lot of questions for you as well, Magnus, from fans around the world. But what are your predictions for our match? Do you think we will break the new world record? And who do you think will win the match?
Who?
I think Odin will win the match, and I think he will break the record. But I think there's going to be some extremely tough moments along the way.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we're prepared, right, Odin?
Yes, we're very well prepared,
ready to go. All right, let's move on to some questions from the fans. First question is from Admir. What's his motivation nowadays?
Yeah, I just like to play chess, and there are certain tournaments, as I mentioned before, like the World Rapid and Blitz and freestyle chess that motivate me more than others, but first of all, I love to play chess, and I'm still quite good at it, so I want to continue.
That's great. And Hans Ness asks, what's your worst chess memory? Could you tell about it?
Yeah, I have some bad chess memories. I remember there was this Four Nations youth league with like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. We had like a really long trip, and then I played in the evening, and I lost like after 7 hours, which was already the middle of the night. That sucked. I remember. Apart from that, yeah, I mean, I had some tough losses here and there, but yeah, nothing too horrible.
But I guess as an adult, I mean, you've had your moments where things have gone your way as well, I guess. In crucial last round games and so on.
Yeah, I mean,
more than tough losses.
No, I've definitely been fortunate in that way that most of like the candidates 2013, like I had a lot of tough moments there, or at the end, like the last 4 or 5 days felt like an eternity. But obviously, since I pulled through, then it was not bad.
And when you won that tournament, you were sitting and analyzing your own game, and then you saw the result in Kramnik's game.
No, I was just so exhausted at that point. I didn't really know what to do in the game against Svidler. I sort of thought, yeah, let me try and play. And then, I mean, I was a bit apprehensive. I was tired. Like I had a good position, but then I was like taking too long. Then it got super complicated, which is his forte. I got in time trouble. He completely outplayed me. I lost the game. I was too exhausted to think. And then I just briefly glanced over at the eventual Kramnik game. I was like, oh, he's losing. Okay. I'm probably okay then.
But what I like about that moment is you kind of personified how difficult it is to win a candidates tournament and how exhausting it is.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been easier if it hadn't happened the way it did in the last few rounds. Like, I guess after 10 rounds, or 11 rather. I mean, I had +4, and I mean, I had a lost position against Rajabov, but apart from that, it had gone quite smoothly. Like, I'd drawn against Aronin and Kramnik, and I won a lot of other games. I felt like things were going quite well. And then, everything sort of fell apart. And it's certainly, the candidates is, to me, like, psychologically, it's almost as tough as the World Championship for sure.
And the next question is from Ricardo Batista. He says, Magnus has a tremendous memory. How did he reach that, and can it be trained?
Yeah, I'm sure memories can be trained. My memory certainly isn't as good as it was when I was a kid. But I've never done anything to train my memory. Fortunately, it still works kind of okay. I mean, it's a bit more blurry than it used to be. But I mean, there are methods of doing that. I'm not an expert on them.
I've experienced that myself. I'm watching TV series with my wife, and then where have I seen this actor before? And it was another show we saw 2 weeks ago. I can't remember, so it's tough.
Yeah, it's where the way our brains sort information into what's important and what's not important.
Yeah.
So I guess especially when you have a kid, you have different priorities. You cannot remember trivia anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Next question is from Green Needle Brainstorm. Which game or move within a game was a turning point for you, and how you played chess and understood chess, if such a moment actually exists?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question. I'd probably have to think more about that. I haven't reflected so much on these things.
Next question is from Scooby. Could you manage a football team?
So anybody could manage a football team. Could I do it well? Probably not. Should I? Probably not. Do I want to? Kind of.
Yeah, good answer.
Very good. Next question is from Sai Krishna. Are you concerned about your classical rating? You once said you once had a 2900 goal. Would that be something that still motivates you, excites you?
No. That's a simple answer. Or the simple answer to whether 2900 motivates me. My classical rating sucks right now, or comparatively. I don't know if I'm actually better than that at the moment. But I mean, I generally would want it to be high enough that I don't have a problem with it remaining the highest in the world. So that's sort of the only thing that
you would like a small buffer to the second
place.
place.
Definitely like a buffer.
But it's kind of funny when you say that your classical rating sucks, because I think there's a lot of
classical rating sucks.
No, but it's I mean, everything's relative, right? So, the thing about last year is I played generally a bit more classical than I might want. And generally, I actually played quite well. I just had 2 absolutely disastrous tournaments that cost me a combined almost 40 points. And that's why the rating looks look so bad. Apart from that, it was okay. But I mean, I've rarely found classical chess particularly exciting the last couple of years.
But you also played a couple of team events, like the European Club Cup and European Team Championship.
No,
was that fun?
Those I quite enjoy, especially the European Club Cup. European Team Championship. That was like, it was a more difficult event since we were like basically out of contention for anything from the start, and then it's kind of harder to be motivated.
And your club Offerspiel, you won the tournament, so that must have felt good.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was probably my favorite win of all of last year, since it was so unexpected, and it felt very, very real. It's the first time I've really won anything big in a team event, and we did it without any like actual like world class players, and we had a bunch of young guys and Norwegians as well, so that meant a lot for sure.
Fantastic. And then we have a question from Flavius and Scooby. They're quite similar. Will you come back to the World Championship if Alireza or Pragnananda wins against Sting? And actually, we have a question from Grandmaster David Howell on Instagram, which we had as a guest in December. So go check out that episode. That was also in English, even though David is trying to learn Norwegian these days. And you'll find that episode on Spotify and wherever you listen to podcasts. If you had to spend 1 year on a desert island with a fellow top 20 chess player, who would it be?
I mean, yeah.
That's a funny question.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I don't know if Aronian is top 20, but I think that could be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would probably say Aronian. He would drive me crazy, but it would be fun.
You could play a lot of freestyle chess.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you, Odin? Which top 20 player would you go on an island with?
I have no idea. It's a tough question.
I'll probably pick one of the young, talented players like Abdusatoro or Prague, because they're full of youth and energy and great chess players who want to learn more. So,
yeah, but it's a desert island. I mean,
true.
I would pick someone who could do the work for me.
Abdusatoro is fit though.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe Abdusatoro.
Yeah,
it's a good pick. Yeah.
Best of both
work
worlds.
Discipline and quite a good chess player as well.
What would you talk about?
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good point. Valid point.
I wish Svidler was still top 20 because he's a movie buff.
Yeah,
that would have been fun.
I have to think about that question actually.
Yeah. And speaking of questions, we also have one last question from Far, your daddy, Odin, who always contributes with a question towards the end of the episode.
That's true. Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of questions. I'll just pick the best one and an important question as well. What do you think has to be done to get more women to play chess? And also to get them to like a higher level,
Yeah, that's probably a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know. I think there are pros and cons to having open tournaments and also women's tournaments. Like, I'd probably generally think that it's better to have either or, but I can understand it. I mean, I think chess communities and chess clubs in general can do a better job in being more welcoming. To women and girls, but it's something that's going to take some time for sure.
Yeah, we had an interesting suggestion from
Ole Christian Strøm,
yes,
Norwegian journalist.
Yes, about he was comparing it to
Formula 1.
Formula 1, yeah, and where they had this group of good drivers, women drivers, who they were like just throwing money and trainers at and everything, and just to the aim goal is to get one of them up in the Formula One. And is this something like, okay, what Norway Chess does is they give them good prizes in one tournament, but then they're playing the next one and it's the same like struggle and probably not easy. And if they could just focus on the chess, and they have like put together like a task force of old very good trainers and so on, and they could like play all the most competitive tournaments and whatnot. Is this something that could work on an international level, you think?
Yeah, I think it would help. I don't know exactly. And yeah, I mean, you are right that for the female tournament in Norway Chess, like it's obviously excellent for them to have good prizes, but I think these women still make a lot more money from chess than male players of a similar level. That's sort of where the problem with having like both the open tournaments and the women tournaments are. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see also what happens in Formula One, in the sense that I mean, I don't know, but I guess you'd need some fitness to drive a car fast, but I don't think you necessarily need that much strength.
No, I think that's why he said it's a bit comparable to chess.
It's a bit comparable,
and it's like my idea is like the Polgar, if you can call it experiment, but just do that worldwide and start from a young age. Here's like these 10 women. We're going to see how far we can take them. Like
by all means.
Yeah.
So if there's a rich sponsor out there
listening,
this is an interesting project.
Yeah.
Any more questions from your father?
I will check.
This has been great, Magnus. Thank you so much for taking time to come here and talk to us about all these interesting stories, ideas you have about chess, etc. And we wish you the best of luck for 2024.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
This last part will be in Norwegian. Da gjenstår det bare én ting å si.
Vi sjakkes.
Magnus må bli med.
Vi sjakkes.
Ok, ta det inn det. Da gjenstår det bare én ting å si.
Vi sjakkes.